Chapter 1. The combined stench and sticky encase and musty rot was overpowering as Yasmin entered the 5th second-hand shop in a row, which she had hesitated to call charity shops due to the unlikeliness of any money actually going towards a charity, instead of some great city-state-wide money laundering scheme. She had, once again, neglected doing her Christmas shopping until Christmas Eve, and was now frantically attempting to buy her friends meaningful yet adorable gifts. She had tried the big chain shops, but they were all filled to the brim with the other lazy social rejects and Grinches. Instead, she had taken to the back streets, where dodgy men in trench coats tried to sell you totally real watches, I promise. She had soon given up her rebuttal of aren't watches only meant to have free hands, and made her way to a cramped store with Nuts and Sons in flaking green writing above the door. It took Yasmin a few minutes to accustom to the warmth and reek of her surroundings. Pulling off her hat and gloves, she noticed the huge shelves of miscellaneous knickknacks, brikes, bracks, curos, thingamajigs and whatabouts running along each wall. There was a lingering dust in the air, as if someone had recently slapped an old sofa, and decades of dead skin, dried sweat, and facial matter had been launched into the atmosphere. Even before she took more than a few paces forward, a man stood forward from a back room with a disconcerting smile on his wrinkled face. His suit was a faded velvet, with a lifetime of dandruff collected around the collar. As he revealed himself, Yasmin noticed a limp on his walk. "Hello, madam," he said with a heavily indistinguishable accent. "Hey, I'm just looking for a gift for a friend, Chris," Yasmin replied, slightly disconcerted. "A gift?" he repeated. "We have gifts! Like this one!" The shopkeeper excitedly turned her over to a corner of the shop where a safe sat against the cracked wall. He bent over to unlock it, various bones and joints clicking, cracking and crunching as he did so. As the safe door was creaked open, Yasmin braced herself. What was she bracing herself for? She had no idea. The shopkeeper reached into the black void and pulled out a small white box. He handed it to her. The nondescript box was around the size of a packet of cigarettes, and weighed about the same size. "What is it?" she asked. "A gift," he answered. "But what?" "Gift," he repeated. "From your friend. Free." "Free?" she asked. "Free. Take it," he said. "Do not open it," he added sternly. "Don't open it? Then what's the point?" "Take it. For your friend. Do not open it." Thanks." Yasmin furrowed her brow. "Merry Christmas. Do not open it," he said one final time, before disappearing into the back room. Yasmin pocketed the box and left the shop. As the shock of snow and wind hit her again, she thought to herself, "I'll just buy him a chocolate orange." Doctor Who, Reboot of the Cybermen, written by Oliver Guy, narrated by Nick Payne. Chapter 2. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tim Nuts, and this is New Leeds Live 35. Our top story today, it has been announced that Jackie Anglescram is to be integrated as the second president of New Leeds on January the 17th, after former President Simpson was paralysed from the waist down in November. In other news, the fallout this Christmas is expected to be much higher than intentionally anticipated. With crops continuing to die, experts are predicting a hungry Christmas for many this year. Now let's go to the weather and fallout with Selena. Chris walked over to the TV and switched it off. He felt uncomfortable in the ensuing silence, and not wanting to turn the TV back on, he opened up his phone and played a Christmas playlist. As the bells and piano filled his drab apartment with a hollow jolliness, he noticed a frankly piss-poor job he'd done at decorating. The fairy lights, not that you can call them lights, due to the fact that none of the bulbs actually worked, hung unevenly on one side of the lopsided tree. The baubles, most of them were either mishappen, cracked or smashed, sat on the other side of the fake fir tree, He sighed as a knock on the door broke him out of his brooding. Merry Christmas! Yasmin cheered as Chris opened the door. There were flecks of snow covering her duffel coat and hat. I got you some gifts. It's Christmas Eve, Chris said, moving aside to let her pass. Do you want the fucking presents or not? Chris sighed and looked at her. Sure, go on then. He smiled as she reached into her carrier bag. I got you these two because one of them's a bit... well... She handed him a Terry's chocolate orange. Chris stared at the confectionery incredulously. How did you afford the chocolate? The stuff's basically gold since the UN put that embargo on new leads. I stole them, she answered casually, reaching into her bag and pulling out a number box. Chris noted the second gift being a small plain white box. It's a packet of cigarettes, he asked, taking the box. I don't know what it is, but it was free, so... Chris held the box up to his ear and shook it. He couldn't hear anything. Oh yeah, don't open it, Jasmine added urgently. Why? Chris asked in a manner halfway between bemused and fear. No idea. The guy who gave it to me said not to open it. Whoa, a guy? You got it from a guy? Chris put air quotes around the word guy. Yeah, some old guy in an old shop. No biggie. Yasmin slung her bag back on her shoulder. No biggie. Yeah, no biggie. I'm gonna go and give the others their gifts now. Yasmin walked over to the door and opened it. She turned back to face and noticed a tree. Your tree's wonky, she told him, in not an entirely serious way, and closed the door behind her. Chris stood still for a few seconds. He picked up the small box from the table and opened it. Chapter 3. Vera flicked the page over. The crisp sound of the page breaking and the silence acted almost like an op-ed, sending waves of calming pleasure through her mind. Chapter 3, she read to herself, stopping the heathland. It was at that point when a well-encompassing crash erupted from the flat next door. Vera felt the wall shake as the voice of an all-American idiot, Chet Nathaniel, began screaming along to an indistinguishable, I'm going to kill that man, she muttered. Vera rapped on Chet's door. The cold bit at her exposed finger, but her increased blood rate kept her from shivering. The door swung open, and there he stood, about 5'3" of him. Chet's stocky build mixed with his height made him look like an orc. His long blonde hair was messy, and he held a half-empty bottle of eggnog in his hand. Hey, he yelled in a drunken slur. It's my favourite Rusky! Turn your shitty music down or I'll give you an emina with your eggnog, Vera stated matter-of-factly. Ah, come on, let's dance, it's Christmas! Chet practically shouted while gyrating in a way that could possibly be called a dance. I can smell that cheap eggnog on your breath from here, Vera said, stony-faced. Ah, you'll love it, he proclaimed, attempting to twerk. I really don't, she responded, still standing in the doorway. Chet randomly swung his arm out to the right and knocked over yet another bottle of Jackson's family quality eggnog, sending it reeling onto the floor and smashing it into a million pieces. God damn, he yelled. That's a health and safety risk. You might want to clean it up, Vera snarked, stepping into Chet's flat with light feet and unplugged his stereo. Screw that nanny state shit, God bless America, Chet yelled at the top of his tongues. Hey, do you know any way to get eggnog out of a carpet? He added. Yeah, Vera said openly and chirpily, her Russian accent thickening slightly. Merry Christmas, she added, closing the door behind her and returning to her book. Chapter 4. Merry Christmas. Who are you? Yelled the man at the door. I told you this wasn't my uncle's house, sighed the woman to the left of him. I forgot my hat, said the man to the right of him. Neil, for the last fucking time, we're not going back. Just deal with it, the first man said. Who are you lot? Yasmin asked, looking at the trio over. We're leaving. So sorry about this. Happy holidays, said the woman apologetically. Actually, it's Merry Christmas, the first man said. The reindeer antlers on his head jingling, he moved his head sassily. Shut up, she told him. Again, sorry, we'll be off now. Yasmin frowned her brow. If you're lost, I could always give you directions. Could you also find my hat? Muttered the hatless stranger. The other man, in a floral shirt and leather jacket, kicked him in the shin. Could you? The floral man said, rocking his way past Yasmin and walking aside. Cheers, babe. He sat down on the sofa and put his feet up on the coffee table. Doctor, put your feet down, the woman muttered. All right, Mum. The hatless man approached Yasmin. Hi, I'm Niall. I don't suppose you've got a spare hat lying around? Oh my God, Niall, will you shut up about your hat? The doctor yelled. It's part of my religion, Niall yelled back. Is it? The woman asked incredulously. No, he replied. The woman approached Yasmin. So sorry about them. I promise we'll be out of your hair as soon as we find out where we're going. It's fine, honestly. Yasmin waved it off. Didn't catch your name, she added. Tess, said Tess. Yasmin, said Yasmin. At that moment, Chet entered boisterously. Hey, Yas, do you know a way of getting eggnog out of the carpet? He noticed the three strangers in the living room. Who are these people? Are we having an orgy? No, we are not having an orgy, Yasmin replied incredulously. And do you mind knocking? I'd never have an orgy with humans, Niall muttered under his breath. What degenerate has orgies with humans? The doctor whispered to him. At that moment, Vera stormed in. Chet, you actual shit. Did you steal my credit card? I wanted to buy you a present. Chet responded, his voice becoming noticeably higher. At that moment, Chris ran in. His face was red and ganked with sweat. Yasmin, I opened the box. I lost it. Lost what? Yasmin asked. At that moment, a scream erupted from down the hallway. Chapter 5. And you're sure it came from here? The doctor asked, attempting to see inside the locked flat by looking through the one-eyed spy hole. I'm sure, Yasmin affirmed. It definitely sounded like Arthur. And who's Arthur? The doctor pulled out a strange-looking cylinder from his pocket and used it to open the door. Arthur MacArthur. He moved here around the same time I did. Bit of a recluse, one none of us never really knew him. Sounds like the perfect victim. The doctor stepped inside. Victim of what? Jasmine followed. I don't know. Inheritance theft? Home invasion? Alien possession? Arthur's flat was, much like the rest of the Counter estate, small and drab. Tattered curtains hung over a small wall, a cracked window, and walls hinted that there were originally once a gaudy floral wallpaper. On a chipped and stained desk was a magazine about model trains. Next to it sat a cupcake. The doctor waltzed over and nauseously flicked through the magazine, failed to ignore the cake and picked it up, shoving half of it into his face. He grimaced at the taste before taking another, much larger bite. Doctor, you better come and see this, Yasmin called urgently. What is it? The doctor asked as he approached a mouthful of cake. Can't you see I'm busy? He threw the cake wrapper onto the floor and watched it flutter down, landing next to a bloody lifeless hand. Oh, he stated, spitting flecks of wet cake over the corpse of Arthur MacArthur. That's not healthy, he added. What happened to him? Yasmin asked, holding her hand over her mouth and nose. Looks like, but it can't be. He disappeared ages ago. Jasmine widened her eyes. Who? What in tarnation? Came a voice from behind the pair. They jumped in shock and turned to find Chet standing there, a baseball bat in his hand. Chet! Yasmin yelled, irritated. Thanks for ruining the tension just before my dramatic monologue, dickhead, said the doctor. What was that? Chet's voice rose up a few notches in pitch. Don't tell me he's standing up. The doctor's voice had risen up even deeper than Chet's. Yasmin turned around. Her fight or flight response suddenly turned up to the max. He's standing up. Ah, fuck! The doctor muttered. The corpse of Arthur stood there, swaying slightly in a non-existent breeze. Various parts of his body were seemingly at different stages of some sort of augmentation. Don't worry, Chet stepped forward, armed with his baseball bat. I'll save the day. Don't be an idiot, Yasmin whispered, stepping back slowly. Let's just back away slowly. Fuck that, run for your life, the doctor shouted, jumping over the catty sofa before bolting out of the door and disappearing into the snow. Chapter 6. Where's Chet? Where's Yasmin? Chris yelled as the doctor caught his breath in the doorway. I'm so sorry, the doctor began. Oh no, Tess muttered. I bet he killed them, Neil muttered back. I'm so sorry. They didn't make it out. It was all like, I'm going to save the day and stop the Cybermen. The Cybermen? Neil's jaw dropped. But they were like, no, Doctor, let me sacrifice myself to save you. You are just so silly and clever and alpha and handsome. The universe can't survive without you. At that moment, there was a bang on the door behind the doctor. Sometimes I can still hear them, the doctor choked up. Open the door, let me in, came the muffled voice of Yasmin. But we need to let go. We must begin again. It's what they would have wanted. A whole new lease of life. Shut the fuck up and open the door. As Chris pushed him out of the way and pulled the door open, Yasmin ran in and slammed the door shut, breathing heavily. The doctor massaged the spot where Chris had pushed him. Oh, so boy, he mattered. What happened? Where's the idiot one? Neil asked. Yasmin rubbed her foreways. It got him. The Cybermen? Tess asked. The fuck's a Cybermen? Chris raised his eyebrows. Technology ingrained humans, Niall explained. Upgraded to survive extinction events, wars, anything. Inferior works, but in practice, well, that's a different story. Sorry, I'm really confused, Vera cut in. This is mental! What do you mean, in theory? Yasmin asked as she caught her breath. Neil began again. In theory, the Cybermen work, but in practice they don't. Imagine waking up with pistons instead of bones and cameras instead of eyes. Imagine being fully conscious but only feeling cold. The early prototypes weren't pretty. Trust me, I was there. We all were, the doctor cut in. I've saved the day. That's a lie and you know it, Tess snapped. You mentioned early prototypes, Chris asked. Niall continued. The early prototypes, all they did was scream. Then someone had the bright idea to destroy the effective areas of the brain while leaving the logical areas intact. The Cybermen would have just enough wiring stuck into their brains to stop them from screaming. But that means all they want to do is make everyone else into Cybermen too. But what are they doing here? Vera asked. That might be my fault, Jasmine admitted. Some old guy gave me a box. A box? Vera asked. Some old guy? Tess asked. He must have contained a cybermat, the doctor suggested. Yet another brilliant idea from someone, Niall sighed. Cybermats are good for quick, messy conversions, which suggests these Cybermen are simple and primitive. Probably some kind of artificial intelligence running them as opposed to a human brain. What's happening out there? Tess asked anxiously. Chris crossed over to the window and pulled the curtain open slightly. Peering out, he looked down at the open centre of the estate. They're just standing there, he said. Standing where? Yasmin asked. Down there, in the centre bit. It's like they're chatting, he replied. Wait. Oh my god. What? The doctor began to ride up again. An uncomfortable, heavy silence fell upon the room. Oh no, Vera, you're not going to like this, Chris croaked. Vera walked over and peered out the window. Her heart choked. My parents are down there. The fuck are your parents doing here? The doctor scoffed. It's Christmas! Tess yelled. I have to stop them, Vera yelled, peering away from the window and grabbing the door handle. Don't be an idiot, the doctor indicated. You're one to talk. All you've done since you got here is act like a buffoon. Vera growled, pulling the door open and running outside. Within a minute, she was dead. Chapter 7. What are we going to do? Tess asked finally, breaking the silence that had fallen over the remains of the group. No idea, the doctor said. Well, I've got this, Neil said, pulling a small bomb-shaped bomb out of his pocket. Is that? The doctor's eyes widened. Yep, a miniature nuclear bomb, Niall answered. Great, more radiation, Chris muttered. But that means, Tess said, we can stop the Cybermen, Yasmin finished. We just need to get them all close enough to the explosion radius, Neil thought out loud. We'll need a distraction to get them all in one place, Chris admitted. Nah, they'll just stop that bomb a mile off, Tess sighed. So we'll need someone else to set the bomb off while the Cybermen are distracted, Yasmin added. Bit of a problem there. The bomb doesn't have that long of a timer. Whoever sets it off has to be a fast runner and get out of the way in time, Niall said. Doctor, you should do it, Tess said. Me? Why me? The doctor's voice rose up to an even higher octave. Hello, Time Lord, functionally immortal, ringing any bells? Tess patronised. A what, Lord? Chris asked. I'm not doing it, the doctor yelled. You do it, he pointed at Yasmin. Me? Why me? Yasmin parroted. No reason, the doctor defended. I just thought it'd be nice, being a martyr. Oh right, so you can brood about how I sacrificed myself to save you, and about how there should have been another way, and that you need to be let go and begin again with a whole new lease of life? No, the doctor began to tense up. Well, what then? Why should I do it? Why should any of us do it? Look, just forget I said anything, the doctor attempted to brush the man away. No, come on, tell me, why should I sacrifice myself and you shouldn't? Yasmin leaned over the doctor. Because I'm more important than you! A silence fell over the room. It seemed like a silence fell over the entire world, as even the snowstorm outside had just stopped howling and screaming. Oh right, Yasmin laughed. So that's it then? Alright, fine. She took the bomb from Niall. Make a distraction, but I intend to survive. She calmly walked out. Chapter 8. There were now roughly a dozen Cybermen, methodically breaking into each flat on the ground floor. Their numbers were rising alarmingly quickly. The sun had set hours again, the brilliant orange glow replaced by the sterile sheer of white lights of the street lamps. The subversive elements have been captured, Cyber Leader. Hello, the doctor said, his jacket zipped up against the cold. Merry Christmas. The Cyber Leader towered over the doctor. Subversive element identified. You are the doctor. Excellent. Why the long face? Not happy to see me? Get it? Because of the gas masks? No? The doctor scratched the back of his head awkwardly. So where have you lot been? Last I heard, you were wiped out in the last cyber war. It is correct that we required a reboot, the Cyber Leader spoke. Don't start with the technology puns. The Cybermen began to gather around the doctor in a circle. They all placed their left hands across their chest plates. What's this, some kind of sex thing? The doctor asked, turning around in a circle. A sign of respect, the Cyber Leader announced. Respect, the doctor repeated. Respect for our creator, the Cybermen called out in unity. Right, this whole genesis of the Cybermen thing. Yes, I was there on Mondes. Yes, I was fairly instrumental in your creation. But that was, like a month ago for me. I've moved on. The doctor blushed slightly. The creator must be preserved. The creator must be saved, the Cybermen called out in unity once again. Right, okay, this is getting weird now. I'm all for entire races worshipping me, but even I have my limits. The creator will be converted to Cyber Payne, the Cyber Leader announced. Right, okay, that's where I draw the line. Prepare for the conversion process. Welcome to the Cyber Age. That's when the bomb exploded. Chapter 9. Chris, Tess and Nia watched as the several square buildings that made up the Golder Council estate exploded in one great orange orb. There was a rumble, followed by a bang, concluded by the ground shaking. There it goes, Niall stated. I wonder if they got out, Tess added. The doctor was the first to appear, his clothes smouldered and in some places burning. He was stumbling slightly. Did you guys see that? Yes, we saw it, sir, Niall said. Where is she? Chris asked. I don't know, the doctor shrugged. Come on, you two, we're off. Happy holidays, Niall said as he began to walk off. It's Merry Christmas. Don't erase white culture, the doctor said. The three walked off, as Chris stood in the cold, watching his home burn in the night. The flames danced and flickered like the lights on a Christmas tree. He said with a heavy, indistinguishable, fuck myself. Moternid. Oh, Motinerd. Some of these words are hard to say. As the shock of sugar my tits. I don't even have any. Our top story today. It has been announced that Jackie. Frick me. Anglesgram. At least I know this one isn't this one's a made-up name. I'm so gonna have to slap my face. Ow. Stupid mouth. Anyway, Chris started. Thank you. How do people do this? It's so difficult. Openate. What the heck is an openate? Chet randomly swung his arm. Why is it so hard to say? Boy. You can see I'm not the best choice for narrating. Could you also find... But they were like, no, doctor. That was my fault. I'm just finding this funny. But they were like, no, doctor. Let me sacrifice... I'm going to be like this for a while now. At that moment, there was a banging on the door behind the doctor. Something! I think I did this with one of your others, I'm sorry. But we need to let go. We must begin again. And only... Vera yelled as Chris pushed him out of the way and pulled the door. This is so funny. What's this? Some kind of sound? That's funny. Hold on, they're testing the doorbell. Polka. Oh, stop that! Yes, we saw his